has permission. She's Have you ever had that feeling that what you believe may not be the truth? Have you ever considered that what you have been taught perhaps your entire life may be filled with lies, worthlessness, and unprofitable things? If so, you've come to the right place.
Maybe.
Yeah. This video podcast examines this premise and gives you the insight on what may have happened and provides the tools to help you to begin to navigate your way out of spiritual Babylon and search out and find the way to eternal life. Professor Joe Bakanovic is your teacher, and your homeroom is on Rumble. And we need one more follower on Facebook for We Who Are Lost. One, people, just one. That's all we're asking, just one. So go out there, find somebody, something.
I'm chomping at the bit to do a political show on Monday, but I made a promise I'm not going to do that.
If you want a political show on Monday,
find a follower.
This is your task. You got to find a follower for Facebook. I did my thing. I invited like probably 50 or 75 last night. So that might be successful. I've gotten one so far that's signed up. So
we need Uno.
All right. But that was before this one. So we need one more. All right.
And the reason for that is we want to do a clean break and a split so that all scriptures work is done on We Who Are Lost and all political commentary is on the road to Concord. And if we do this right, you might see a regular return to the road to Concord, at least on Mondays. Because, man, do I have a lot that I want to yak about right now in the political world. But
the world is burning around us.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. Comment on the board from Natasha. We're either going to become internet famous or lose our whole audience. Yes.
right. Yeah.
What are the two?
And by the way, this Hosea stuff kind of applies to what's going on today, doesn't it?
Oh boy. All right, folks, we got a lot to do today. We got to be high stepping. So let me get going. If the system had allowed for it, we would have Natasha handling this for us today because she reads the scriptures very well. And I would just interrupt her when I wanted to comment. But I'm going to be starting in Hosea 1 and just seeing how far we can get today in just a moment. But first, real quick, the rest of our housekeeping here. For scripture-based stuff, this is going to be where we're moving. This is going to be homeroom, We Who Are Lost on Rumble. We primarily use Rumble because they won't strike you out of here when we say something they don't like. Now, YouTube and Facebook are kind of lenient with scriptural-based things, Hey, Brother Ed is in the house. How you doing, Chief? So, scriptural based things, but Brother Ed, you just missed it, man. If you want to see my political commentary come back up, I need one more follower on this page, Facebook, We Who Are Lost. We need one more. See right here, it says 99. I need it to say 100, folks. But these are where we're going to be staying here because those two pages, well, Rumble primarily will keep us from getting in a lot of trouble. Because you guys know, if you've been with me any length of time, you know that I got a mouth and I don't really care what I say. I'm not politically correct. And if I've got a comment or a thought, I'm going to express it. Let the chips fall where they may. And these people, in all of their tolerance and diversity, won't tolerate diversity. So let's get into the scripture on this one today. I told you what we're going to be looking at today is the prophecies about Ephraim. And that's why we're going to be in Hosea. Hosea is the prophet to the northern kingdom. And right here, real quick, I got you a little time map. This down here is Hosea. This is when he's prophesying, somewhere around 850 to 450 BC. Right here on this arrow, 750, in this area is where Israel, the northern kingdom, falls. You see that little triangle right here. And Judah stands alone. So it's about 750 to 722 BC before the Messiah comes. Well, look how much of that's about 2/3 of Hosea's ministry is after the fall of the northern kingdom. He's still prophesying after the fall of Judah. Or that's his area right there, right in there, about that 100 years. This is a big deal. Hosea is the prophet to the northern kingdom, the primary prophet to the northern kingdom. We're going to be out of the LSB today, Legacy Standard Bible. That is basically an NASB Bible with the name Yahweh restored, so it'll help me with my reading. I'm going to read the scriptures. I will be commenting here and there. This is all we're doing today. We're going through Hosea. If you have never read the prophets with somebody who has come to understand the prophetic language as the prophets use it, today might be very, very different for you. Before we get going, something very important for me to get in your head. The prophecy is repetitive. A lot of times, prophecy is pinned to the person that it first lands on. So a prophecy about Jacob is going to be handed down to all of his children. A prophecy about Abraham will be handed down to all of his children, usually. These things, they cascade as it goes through time, and they tend to repeat over and over again. Okay, no, Mr. Delanoy, we've only got 2 hours. So when we get done, and it might be that we'll pick up here next Wednesday. This is an extremely important book for us to get through. Before we go to the next section in this study, if you want to know where America is in the Bible, in prophecy, the United States is in prophecy, not the way everybody's looking for it. It's Ephraim, the seat of the house of Israel. We are the seat of Ephraim in the modern world. That's where you have to look for the prophecy of the United States. And when you do, you'll notice that our history mimics the northern kingdom. That's what I was getting to. We have followed the prophetic patterns because we are the descendants of the people these patterns landed on. The non-believing Gentile world, those patterns repeat as well. Okay, this is one of the ways that when you understand prophecy, not as a crystal ball, what's going to happen tomorrow? No. Prophecy is so after it happens, we can look backwards and know that Yahweh told us the future from the beginning. Only the Creator Elohim can do that, the Creator God. Prophecy is used to strengthen your faith and to help you know that you do not believe in a false God. All right. That's what prophecy is supposed to be for. Plus, it's to give you indications of the season you're in. The Messiah told us he expects us to know the seasons. Okay. That's because you're going through a repeat of a prophetic time. So when we're reading Hosea, it's going to apply to Hosea's lifetime, the near future, and the far future. Prophecy tends to repeat, okay, especially as you get closer to the end times. Certain prophetic utterances are going to be very, very prevalent because they're a now and later type of thing. So here's where we start. Hosea 1:1. The word of Yahweh, which came to Hosea, the son of Beeri, in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahuz, and Hezekiah. And I'm bad with these names. This is one of the reasons I wanted Natasha to read this. She's good with them. Kings of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel. So right there, he's recognizing the two houses, the two kingdoms. That's the house of Israel and the house of Judah. When Yahweh first spoke through Hosea, Yahweh said to Hosea, excuse me, this is going to be a little difficult for me here today to scroll this. Go take for yourself a wife of harlotry and have children of harlotry, for the land commits flagrant harlotry, forsaking Yahweh. This is going to be a earth shadow, a physical representation of the spiritual message. The spiritual message is harlotry, apostasy. You're worshiping false gods. You're an apostate. You have left the true faith. So Hosea is going to take a wife, which is a mirror of Yahweh being married to Israel, all 12, 13 tribes as they come out of Egypt. That's going to be the earth shadow. Hosea's physical wife is going to be an earth shadow of the spiritual husband in heaven and the wife here on earth, the Israeli people. And harlotry is going to be that Israel has turned against Yahweh. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and gave birth to a son for him. And Yahweh said to Hosea, name him Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will visit the bloodshed of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and I will cause the kingdom of the house of Israel to cease. And it will be in that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. All right. This is where, if I understood the Hebrew, I could tell you what these names mean. But the point here is that the child is named prophetically. His first son, Jezreel, is probably the closer pronunciation. It's going to be connected to the loss of the northern kingdom. And right here, Yahweh's telling Hosea, the northern kingdom is going to be done. Break the bow means break the strength. Break his military strength, his political power. It's an idiom, meaning that Israel's going to be no more. They're going to have no power. And now we're talking about the house of Israel, the northern kingdom. Pay attention to how Hosea uses these words. If Hosea talks Israel, northern kingdom. If he says Judah, southern kingdom. That was already set up in the opening couple of lines of this book. Verse 6. Then she conceived again, his wife Gomer, and gave birth to a daughter. And Yahweh said to him, name her Lo Ruhamah, or Ruhamah, for I will no longer have compassion on the house of Israel, that I would ever forgive them. But I will have compassion on the house of Judah, and save them by Yahweh their God, or in this case Elohim, and I will not save them by bow, sword, battle, horses, or horsemen. All right. This is why we got to pay attention to the way the prophets talk. He's going to let the northern kingdom Israel go. He's going to save the house of Judah. He's going to save them by Yahweh's own hand, not with a bow, sword, battle, horse, or horseman, not through military force. He's going to save the southern kingdom in some other way. Well, we have the benefit of hindsight. We know that in the future, Cyrus is just going to up and let the Jews come back home. The house of Judah is going to come back to Judea just because he decrees it. That's how Yahweh saves them. So, we've got to pay attention to what the prophet is actually saying, not what we think he's saying. We got to get back into around 700 BC. Well, in this case, maybe closer to 750 BC, into his sandals, what's going on in the world, and, at his time, in his part of the world, and we've got to go forward from there. Verse 8, then she weaned Lo Ruhamah, and she conceived and gave birth to a son, and Yahweh said, name him Lo Ami, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. Okay, this is where it's starting to get really... He's going to divorce the northern kingdom. We read this in Jeremiah. This is verse 10. Yet the number of the sons of Israel will be like the sand of the sea. This is going to be reminiscent of his promise to Abraham, which cannot be measured or numbered. And it will be that in the place where it is said to them, you are not my people, it will be said to them, you are the sons of the living God. And the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together, and they will set for themselves one head, and they will go up from the land, for great will be the day of Jezreel. All right, what's going on here? Where it is said to them, you are not my people, it will be said to them, you are sons of the living Elohim. If you are in Judea or Samaria, that's not going to be said to the northern kingdom. The only place where it's going to be said you're not the sons of Yahweh is in the wilderness, in the nations, in the Gentile nations, outside of physical land of Israel. So this is a prophecy about the lands where they're going to be scattered, the different nations where they're going to be scattered. And we're talking about a time where it'll come about where it'll say you are the sons of the living Elohim. You are living in that time. That time has been around since about the mid 1800s. That's when it really got its foothold. It started even earlier. The founding fathers of this country knew these prophecies. They understood them. Benjamin Franklin wrote that this country is New Israel. He didn't mean the new nation of Israel. He didn't mean the new Jews. He did not mean that. He meant the new northern kingdom. Why did he say that? Because he knew prophecy. He knew his prophecy. Well, I thought he was a deist. Apparently a deist that read the Bible closely. Because if you're not reading the Bible closely, you will miss that prophecy where the northern kingdom is promised a new land where it'll get its rest and regain its strength as in its youth. Like when it came out of Egypt, it'll remember Yahweh. And then all of a sudden, the world will start telling these people, you're actually sons of the living Elohim. You're members of the lost tribe. Okay? That's what Hosea is telling us. This is a future prophecy, way future. A lot of people will argue this happened when the house of Judah comes back from Babylon. Nope. Nay. Because we even know in the times of Yeshua that the bulk of the northern kingdom was still living to the northeast beyond the Euphrates River. And Josephus, writing 100 AD, some 60 years after the ascension, he tells the whole world, yep, we know where the lost tribes are. They're not in the land yet. Well, this prophecy says the sons of Judah and the sons of Israel will be gathered together. Now, that may not necessarily be physically. That could be a spiritual gathering together. And they will set for themselves one head, one king, the Messiah. And they will go up from the land, for great will be the days of Jezreel. Now, I don't understand all of this, folks. I don't. And I'm never going to claim to. But I'm getting a fuzzy feel of it as I study the prophets. We're going to go to chapter 2 now. Say to your brothers, Ami, and to your sister, Rahumah, contend with your mother, contend, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband. And let her remove her harlotry from her face and her adultery from between her breasts. All right, stop right here. Right here. This is where people start misunderstanding the prophets. There's two things going on here. Telling the daughter and the son to argue with their physical mother, Gomer. But this is an earth shadow of tell my people Israel that Yahweh is no longer your husband. Okay, so this is in the voice of Hosea, but it's also the voice of the prophet. So he's speaking for Yahweh at the same time. This is one of the ways we know that the prophet is speaking under the influence of the Holy Spirit. This is not something a man could make up and do, because Hosea is foretelling a future that's going to mirror his present and his future that he couldn't possibly know. But this here, I'm not your husband. This is the divorce of the northern kingdom. Remove your harlotry. In other words, quit being an adulterous wife, but also house of Judah, of Israel, quit being apostate. Yes, sir.
Oh, just Jezreel. It means sown of El, or sown of God. So that's just the beginning of this. So yeah, and Lo Ami is not my people. So and I'll keep working on all these.
Would Ami be my people then?
Yes.
If you take the
Ami
low
is
out?
my people.
Okay.
Yes.
Folks.
Not my people.
Okay. This is going to be a very difficult thing for me to do for y'all, because the fireflies in my head are being set off everywhere. Jezreel, he's going to sown of Yahweh. He's going to scatter the northern kingdom throughout the whole world. He's sowing the world with his people. They are seeds that will later sprout in the new covenant. It says, lo ami. If y'all have ever read, I think it's in the Gospel of John, the accounting of the Last Supper. If you've ever read that in the Hebrew, you're going to run into that word ami.
Yeah.
Yeshua's using it. All right. So I'm trying to explain how this goes. It's going to be, we'll see where we get today. Verse 3 says, let's strip her naked and set her forth as on the day when she was born, and make her like a wilderness, and make her like dry land, and put her to death with thirst. Okay. So let's punish your mother physically in the material world, but this is also, let's take away your inheritance, strip her naked, and set her forth on the day she was born, back to prior to Egypt or somewhere in there, and make her like a wilderness. This is outside of the camp of Israel, outside of the physical land, and make her like a dry land, a desert where there is no life, and put her to death with thirst for the word of Yahweh. This is a dual attack, both on the physical female Gomer, the wife of Hosea, and on northern Israel. So this is a prophecy over Hosea's family and a prophecy over the northern kingdom. This is concurrent. This is why a lot of people have a hard time understanding the prophets. This is an and. They both apply equally. How do we know that? Because we live far in the future from when Hosea was writing. We have the ability to look back and see that this prophecy has been fulfilled. That's how we know that we're reading it right. Verse 4, also, I will have no compassion on her children, because they are children of harlotry. For their mother has played the harlot. She who conceived them has acted shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers, who give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, my oil and my drink. Okay, stop right here. So Hosea is going to say here, I'm not going to have any compassion on my children. Well, we'll see about that. But that's also Yahweh saying, I'm going to have no compassion on the descendants of the house of Israel now. And it says, well, they acted shamefully, went after my lovers, false gods in the spiritual. And I'm going to start focusing on the spiritual mostly. I went after my lovers, false gods, but also physical nations, other kings. In other words, I want these false gods and these foreign nations to give me my bread and my water, my wool, my flax, my oil, and my drink. This is what happens when this nation does not rely on Yahweh alone and looks to other nations to take care of it through trade bargains and agreements and all this other stuff. I need you to guard me and take care of me and feed me and all this other stuff. You're not relying on Yahweh alone. That's part of this. This is Yahweh yelling at the northern kingdom. I could have and would have provided for you had you only trusted me. Well, the northern kingdom did not do that. So this is Yahweh yelling at his people, his northern kingdom, prophesying over them. And yes, this is a rebuke. That's what I mean by yelling. He's rebuking them. And this is harsh. Verse 6, therefore, behold, I will hedge up her ways with thorns, and I will build a wall against her so that she cannot find her paths. So she will pursue her lovers, but she will not overtake them. And she will seek them, but she will not find them. Then she will say, I will go and I will return to my first husband, for it was better for me then than now. In other words, Yahweh's going to make it so she will not prosper on her own. Gomer's not going to prosper away from Hosea. The house of Israel will not prosper away from Yahweh. Folks, that is the prodigal son right there. Hosea just gave you the prodigal son. I'm going to go take my inheritance, go out into the world, live a life of licentiousness, spend dad's money. Oh, wait a minute. Things are so bad for me here. I'm not prospering. I'm not making it on my own. Nothing works for me. That's what it is, a hedge of thorns around him. He doesn't prosper. So what's he say? I will go back and return to my first husband, Yahweh, for it was better for me then than now, even if I have to go back as a servant. That right there is the prodigal son. Verse 8. Now she does not know that it was I who gave her grain, the new wine, and the oil, and multiplied silver and gold for her, which they used for Baal. All right, do you notice now that we have pretty much slipped into, this is Yahweh just talking about the northern. It started out about Hosea and Gomer alluding to the northern. Now it's just straight up. It's a rebuke of the northern kingdom. And Yahweh saying, she thought, the northern kingdom thought it did it all on its own power and its own might, its own works. And Yahweh saying, no, it was me. And then they turned their fruit of their labors to worship a false god, a god that did not give them the things that they now have. Verse 9, therefore I will take back my grain at harvest time and my new wine in its season. I will also deliver my wool and my flax from them. Meaning I will also deliver doesn't mean give it to you. It means take it back. I will rescue it from them and give to cover her nakedness, given to cover her nakedness. He's going to take that back. So now I will uncover her lewdness in the sight of her lovers, and no one will deliver her out of my hand. If you are naked in public in front of strangers, that's great shame. Remember, we were talking about the role of shame. You have to understand how big a deal this is for them. Verse 11, I will also cease all her joy, her feasts, her new moons, her Sabbaths, and all her appointed times. Folks, the northern kingdom is supposed to be, even some Christians will tell you, and by Christians, I don't mean that as a pejorative. The visible church will tell you, yeah, we took over for Judah because Judah wouldn't listen. So now the church is the new covenant. We're Yahweh's people. Well, you have had your feasts, your new moons, and your Sabbaths taken from you. All your Moedim, your appointed times. Yahweh just says that's a bad thing. Yeah, right there. Yahweh said that this is a sign that you're not his people. That's a curse from Yahweh. He's taken away your blessings. So if you think that that stuff doesn't apply to you today under the new covenant, Yahweh just said, wrong. Because Hosea is talking about the new covenant in his prophecies. I'll show it to you when you get there. But he's talking to you about the new covenant. And part of, you're supposed to still be keeping the feasts, the new moons, the Sabbaths, the appointed times, Yahweh's appointed times. Verse 12, and I will make desolate her vines and fig trees, of which she said, these are my wages, which my lovers have given me, and I will make them a forest, and the beasts of the field will devour them. So I will visit the days of the Baals upon her, when she used to offer offerings and smoke to them, and adorn herself with her earrings and jewelry, and go after her lovers, so that she forget me, declares Yahweh. So Yahweh is going to punish the northern kingdom for apostasy, false gods. This is 14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her and bring her into the wilderness and speak to her heart. All righty. Here's where we got to start paying attention. Wilderness. What is the wilderness? In the prophetic language, that is anything outside of the camp of Yahweh. At this point in time, the camp of Yahweh is the Holy Land, Judea and Samaria. He says, therefore, behold, I will allure her. He's talking about the northern kingdom. I'm going to bring her out into the wilderness, into the Gentile nations, and I'll speak to her heart. Then I will give her vineyards from there, and the valley of Achor as a door of hope. Vineyards, places to live, their own land. Israel is described in the prophetic language as a vineyard. That's Yahweh's nation, his vineyard. Okay, that's where his people live, his physical piece of the earth where his people live. He is Yahweh speaketh through Hosea. I will give her vineyards, multiple places to live from there. And the valley of Achor is a door of hope. The valley of Achor is an Old Testament idiom for tribulations, trials, great trials and tribulations, like what you're thinking is going to come in the end times. And she will sing there as in the days of her youth, as in the days when she came up from the land of Egypt, right here. She's going to sing in these other places, meaning she's going to sing the covenant. She's going to remember the covenant. When you see the prophets talking about singing a new song, that's a new covenant. The song of Moses is the covenant of Moses. The new song is the new covenant. Well, Hosea is going to sing the covenant song in these other lands. In other words, it's going to start to restore. The northern kingdom is going to, not Isaiah, excuse me, Hosea is going to sing, going to return to Yahweh. I'm trying to put this in a way that's going to make sense because I know this is new for a lot of you. And if you have questions, tell Charlie and Natasha in the comments and stop me. Because right now I can't see the board. It says, and it will be in that day, declares Yahweh, that you will call me Ishi, and you will no longer call me Bali. All right. Charlie.
Yes.
So
no longer call Yahweh, me wife and no longer call me husband or
says that you will call me. You will call me Ishi.
That you will call me. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And no longer call me Baal.
Yeah.
Folks, that's what happens at the Last Supper. This is when Yeshua says, I'm your master, so I tell you what to do. You know what but from now on, you'll no longer call me master, but call you friend. Well, isn't that wife?
Yes.
Charlie? Okay. Well, friend and wife. Folks, if you're not the friend of your wife, you have no love in your marriage. So what Yahweh's telling the northern kingdom is that in that day, when they're outside of the land of Israel, outside of the camp of Yahweh, when they're in the wilderness, as in Egypt, in bondage, Egypt is physical bondage, there's going to come a time when they will start calling him, my husband, my wife, no longer master. That's the new covenant.
Well, yeah, and there's more to this because
Go ahead.
culturally, Baal, the husband, is the head of the family. The wife is not. The wife is there. I mean, she's nurture and things like that, but they're usurping the authority of the head of the household when they say this. So this, culturally, they're saying, "Oh, I'm going to go with the wife who is not in charge," and that kind of thing too. So
there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot culturally going on here as well.
But this is also talking about restoring the northern kingdom.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
This is a foreshadow of the new covenant. And then look right here, folks. So I will remove the names of the Baals from her mouth, so that they will be remembered by their names no more. Folks, until the 1940s and 50s and 60s, the names of the Baals were gone from Yahweh's people. Both House of Judah and House of Israel, what we call the church, we didn't know those names anymore. You know them now, but you use a different name. You call them abortion, you call them the stock market, and you call them the LGBTQ plus whatever. What three gods are those, Joe? Abortion, Moloch, stock market, Baal, the LGBT, Ishtar, Ashtoreth.
Or Ashtoreth. Yeah.
Those names are back. That means the pit has been opened. You're in the final days.
So,
you're in the end times. But this is a promise talking about what we think of as the church age. Now, how do you know that, Joe? This is why this is very hard for me. And now I'm going to ask Charlie to witness this for me because he's done a lot of studying with me on this. Charlie, are you having any trouble keeping from inserting all the fireflies going off in your in your mind right now?
Oh, this is full of.
We're in Hosea, but if you wanted to drag support for my interpretation,
oh my gosh,
could you not find it?
Oh yes, you could go to just about any of the major prophets and pull stuff right now,
and it would be concurrent and parallel, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Yes,
that's interlocking scriptural support.
Yes,
and that's why I'm confident that we're in the ball field right now, folks. We may not know what set of the bleachers we're in, but we are in the ball field.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not off somewhere in outside of the park. We are in the ball field. We're on the infield somewhere. We're not up in the high bleachers. All right, thanks, Charlie. And it said, right here, folks, verse 18, and in that day I will cut a covenant for them with the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky and the creeping things of the ground, and I will break the bow, the sword, and war from the land, and I will make them lie down in security. A new covenant, a covenant where there will be peace. And I will betroth you to me forever. In other words, you're going to be remarried. He's giving them a divorce. Now he's going to be remarrying them. This has got to be after the cross. Has to be. Otherwise, he cannot remarry them. We've already covered that in Jeremiah. Indeed, I will betroth you to me in righteousness and justice, in loving kindness and compassion, and I will betroth you to me in faithfulness. Then you will know Yahweh. And to know Yahweh also means to obey him. Did you have something, Charlie?
I was just going to say, I like this translation because it talks about cutting a covenant, because that's actually the way the Hebrew is. It's actually cutting a covenant. That means that there was blood involved. This is a blood covenant.
They cut an animal in two.
They cut an animal in two, and there's an instance in scripture that makes this very clear, where the animals were cut in two, and Yahweh walked between them, which means that particular covenant was by he himself. So there was no other participant in that. So he is bound by everything that he said in that covenant, and it cannot be changed.
Okay, folks, you're going to wonder, why do they cut an animal in two? It's a physical representation of the abstract. There's two things going on in cutting that animal in two. One, If you can put this animal back together and bring it back to life, then the covenant can be annulled.
Right.
In other words, the covenant cannot be annulled. 2, if I break the covenant, do to me as was done to this animal.
Yep. Do to me. Yep.
This is how strong the covenant is. And when you swear by Yahweh's name, that's how strong your covenant that you just, and this is why Yeshua said, do not swear. Do not swear an oath by the name of, Yahweh. Or
yeah.
He's saying, don't.
These are serious things. Yeah.
This is big deal, Jack. And it'll be held accountable. You'll be held accountable for those type of things, even if you did it in jest. So this is serious stuff.
Yeah, that's serious.
All right. Verse 21.
And also loving kindness is chesed. So that's a big word. But anyway, I'll get out of here.
You've helped us with that. Verse 21, and it will be in that day that I will answer, declares Yahweh. I will answer the heavens, and they will answer the earth, and the earth will answer the grain, the new wine, and the oil, and they will answer Jezreel, to be sown by Yahweh, and I will sow her for myself in the land. This is talking about the next Exodus, the second Exodus, when everybody comes back to the Holy Land. I will also have compassion on her who had not obtained compassion. And I will say to those who were not my people, you are my people. And they will say that you are my Elohim, my God. Folks, this right here, that's new covenant, but that's also modern times. This is the realization by Yahweh's people that they are actually part of or grafted into the lost tribes. That's why we're focusing on this. That's the gospel right there. The bringing back of all that has been lost from the kingdom of Yahweh and restoring it to the way it was before Adam and Eve fell. Yeshua says this. This is huge right here. And most of us, we just gloss over this. Oh, that's talking about the Jews. Oh, nay, 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 nay. When Paul said you are grafted in through Israel, Paul knew Hosea. Yes, sir.
Breaking news. You have to do a show Monday. We just hit 100 followers on Facebook. Woo-hoo, right. Thank you, everybody.
We'll be doing a political show on Monday. Chapter 3, Hosea marries again. Well, this is probably the same wife, Gomer. This is the physical land echoing the prophetic. Remember, Yahweh was married to the house of Israel. The house of Israel is given a divorce. Yahweh dies in the form of the Messiah on the cross. He's resurrected. He's now remarried to who? The northern kingdom again, back to Gomer. So this is probably Hebrew parallelism, an earth shadow of the spiritual message of the prophecy. This is all related. This is all intertwined. This is fuzzy, intertwined, meshed up thinking. Don't try to put this into multiple little neat concrete categories. If you try that, that's Greek thinking. You will not understand what Hosea is saying. This is not concrete thinking. This is fuzzy feeling thinking. Females should be able to grab this better than men. Okay? At least Western females, because you're already inclined to think in this intertwined, what I've described this spaghetti thinking. Everything is connected and intertwined. Men in the West like to think like waffles. Everything is compartmentalized. You cannot compartmentalize the prophets. It doesn't work that way. Chapter 3, verse 1. Then Yahweh said to me, I think this is 3. Yep, Hosea, short chapter. Then Yahweh said to me, go again, love a woman who is loved by her companion, is an adulteress, even as Yahweh loves the sons of Israel, though they turned to other gods and love raisin cakes. Raisin cakes is an allure to the Queen of Heaven, folks. That's the food that was offered to the Queen of Heaven. If you don't think she's in your Bible, when you're done today, go look up Queen of Heaven in whatever search engine you use to search your Bible. You're going to find her in your Bible in more than one place. It's not a good thing. If you're Roman Catholic, that's Mary. Yeah, the Mary in the Roman Catholic Church is not the Mary of the Bible. She's the mother of heaven. Yes, syncretism, bringing pagan thinking into the church and your worship, syncretism. That's one of the many places you're going to find it. Anyhow, verse 2. So I bargained for her for myself for 15 shekels of silver and a homer and a half of barley. Then I said to her, you shall stay with me for many days. You shall not play the harlot, nor shall you have a man. So I will also be toward you. For the sons of Israel will remain for many days without king or prince, and without sacrifice or sacred pillar, and without ephod or household idols. This, folks, is a prophecy. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do, but right here. For the sons of Israel will remain for many days without king or prince. The founding fathers cited this passage in the founding of this country. They see themselves in this. Has this nation ever had a king? And the prince in this case is a royal prince. Has this nation had a king since it was formed as a nation? No. And it says without sacrifice or sacred pillar. But we also have not been a theocracy. And it says without ephod or household idols. This is all talking about the fact that we've pretty much divorced ourselves from the ways we're supposed to be. That's a prophecy over not just this nation, but also other nations that fulfilled this in the time. It's going to be the prophetic nature of Hosea, of the northern kingdoms, rather, according to Hosea's prophecies in the future. But this is after Ephraim separates back out from Israel. Wait until next week or the week after. This gets really good, but it gets really complicated. Verse 5, afterwards, the sons of Israel will return and seek Yahweh, their Elohim, and David, their king. They're going to seek Yahweh and the Messiah right there. And it says, and they will come in dread to Yahweh and to his goodness in the last days. In the last days. That is not, in the last days, that is not the end times. That's the church age. I guarantee you, I can support this. This is one that Charlie questioned me on when he first encountered me. And he questioned me on this for a while. This is the church age. This is the tribulation. Well, Joe, we're not in the trib yet. Yes, you have been. Now you are in the end times. I can spiritually, scripturally peg that now. How long they last? I don't know. I don't know. But I know you are in the final act now. It's because the scripture tells us to look for certain things that we're now seeing everywhere. Chapter 4, verse 1. Listen to the word of Yahweh, O sons of Israel, northern kingdom. For Yahweh has contention against the inhabitants of the land, because there is no truth or loving kindness or knowledge of Yahweh in the land. Loving kindness and knowledge of Yahweh, knowledge of Torah, knowledge of his word, knowledge of how he works. No loving kindness. The love of many will grow cold. Why? Because lawlessness abounds. It grows. Why does the law? Because nobody knows the word anymore. Nobody knows Yahweh. There arose a nation that didn't know Yahweh. Not that they weren't aware of him. They didn't obey. Hosea 4:6 is coming up. Pay attention to this entire section. Let's go back. This is Hebrew parallelism. There's also a chiasm in here. Very important. If you're watching me today, eyeballs and ears. Listen to the word of Yahweh, O sons of Israel, northern kingdom. For Yahweh has a contention against the inhabitants of the land. I have a legal charge because there is no truth or loving kindness. There's lawlessness or knowledge of Yahweh in the land. There is swearing of oaths, deception, murder, stealing, and idolatry, or adultery rather, which is the same thing. They break forth in violence so that bloodshed follows bloodshed. Therefore the land mourns, and everyone who inhabits it languishes, along with the beasts of the field and the birds of the sky, and also the fish of the sea disappear. Yet, it says, yet let no man contend, let no man offer reproof. Indeed, your people are like those who contend with the priests. So you will stumble by day, and the prophet also will stumble with you by night, and I will destroy your mother. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because they have rejected knowledge, I also reject you from ministering to as my priests, since you have forgotten the law of your God, the Torah, it says Torah in Hebrew, of your Elohim. I myself also will forget your children. This is talking about the northern kingdom, both at the time of Hosea, this is why they're getting a divorce, and in the future after they're scattered into the lands. Now you look at this nation now and tell me that it does not spiritually fit the condemnation that Yahweh just made through Hosea against the northern kingdom. Tell me that he couldn't say that about us now today. He could say every word of that to the United States right now. Why would that matter? Well, one, we claim him. We claim to be his children. We claim to be called by his name. But two, we are. And when we get to this in the next shows or two, we will show you we are the seed of Ephraim. So this prophecy applies to us as equally as it does to the northern kingdom back then. Verse 7, the more they multiplied, the more they sinned against me as they grew in strength and number. I will change their glory into disgrace. They eat the sin of my people and lift up the soul toward the iniquity. In other words, they boast about this. They live in revelry in their sin. We do that right now. And it will be like people, like priests. So I will punish them for their ways and cause their deeds to return to them. They will eat, but not be satisfied. They will play the harlot, but not break forth in number, because they have forsaken Yahweh to keep harlotry. This is all going to be a curse. This is a curse on his people. Until they return to him, they will not prosper. They will languish in numbers. They will be destroyed by the world around them. And also when it says, I will not let you be my priests, if you turn apostate, you can claim to be priests. You know, we're all priests. The New Testament says so. Not if you're apostate, you're not. You're going to be like the priests of the northern kingdom that he's talking to in this day, where they had turned apostate. Those priests, Yahweh didn't listen to them. They weren't doing anything Yahweh wanted to hear about. He was rejecting them. Verse 11, harlotry, wine and new wine take away a heart of wisdom. In other words, pay attention to what I'm saying. My people ask their wooden idol, and their diviner's wand declares to them, for a spirit of harlotry has led them away, and they have played the harlot, departing from their Elohim, departing from their true God. This is apostasy. You're going after anything and everything but Yahweh. They offer sacrifices on tops of mountains and burn incense on the hills. This is to false gods. Under oak, poplar, and terebinth, because their shade is good. Therefore, your daughters play the harlot, and your brides commit adultery. This is also, you're going to find physical shadows of this. It didn't used to be this way until recent times. It used to be that men cheated more than women. Today, the sociologist in me keeps up with this. Best estimates now are that women cheat 2 to 3 times more than their husbands. That's a physical shadow of this prophecy. And this is also a curse. This is not just a prophecy. This is a curse. This is law language, like Charlie keeps telling us. Watch for the law language. That's what we're in. This is law language. Yahweh's leveling charges against the northern kingdom. Verse 14, I will not punish your daughters when they play the harlot, or your brides when they commit adultery. For the men themselves go apart with harlots and offer sacrifices to cult prostitutes, so the people without understanding are ruined. He's not going to punish the women because the men are the one that are accountable to Yahweh for this. He did not punish Eve per se. He went straight after Adam. Why? Because it was Adam's job to watch over his wife and make sure she obeyed Yahweh. He will not come straight to the women. Don't get me wrong. You'll still be held accountable, ladies. But he will not come straight after them, because it is the men who he charged to be in charge. And if you quit doing your job, he just said he's coming for you first. It's as though you, Israel, play the harlot. Do not let Judah become guilty. This is how we know we're still dealing with the northern kingdom. Also, do not go to Gilgal, nor go up to Beth Aven and swear the oath, as Yahweh lives. Since Israel is stubborn, like a stubborn heifer, can Yahweh now feed them like a lamb in a large field? The bull. Ephraim's symbol is the bull, which is misinterpreted sometimes as unicorn, because they didn't quite understand the Hebrew. That's why there's a unicorn in the crest of the royal family of England. We'll get to that in the future. But it says, since Israel is stubborn like a stubborn heifer, can Yahweh now feed them like a lamb in a large field? Can I feed them even though they won't listen to me? No, can't. Because that would make Yahweh not Yahweh. He can't bless you even though you disobey him. That would bring him shame in the eyes of the other God, Elohim and the nations. It says, Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. In other words, don't mess with Ephraim. Leave him be. Let him ruin until he repents of his apostasy. Their drink gone, they play the harlot continually. Their rulers dearly love disgrace. The wind binds them up in its wings, and they will be ashamed because of their sacrifices. Now we'll go to Hosea 5. It says, hear this, O priests. Give heed, O house of Israel. Give ear, O house of the king. For the judgment is for you have been a snare at Mizpah, and a net spread out over Tabor. But I will chastise all of them. I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hidden from me. For now, O Ephraim, you have played the harlot. Israel has defiled itself. Their deeds will not allow them to return to their Elohim, for a spirit of harlotry is within them, and they do not know Yahweh. Moreover, the pride of Israel answers against him, and Israel and Ephraim stumble in their iniquity. Judah also has stumbled with them. Israel and Ephraim. The house of Israel is led by Ephraim, or, in other words, Joseph. They will go with their flocks and herds to seek Yahweh, but they will not find him. He has withdrawn from them. They have dealt treacherously against Yahweh, for they have borne children of strangers. Now the new moon will devour with their portions. Blow the horn in Gibeah, the trumpet in Ramah. Make a loud shout at Beth-aven. Behind you, Benjamin. Right here, we've already covered this in Jeremiah. Ramah is associated with Rachel. Benjamin is the youngest child of Rachel, the youngest of Jacob before he adopted Ephraim and Manasseh. So what you have here is this, in the cultural ancient Hebrew mindset, this is Joseph coming to mind, which is going to bring you all Israel, but especially the house of Israel. Ephraim will become a desolation on the day of reproof. Among the tribes of Israel, I will make known what is true. The prince of Judah have become like those who move a boundary. On them I will pour out my wrath like water. Remember, it's against the law to move boundary stones. Ephraim is oppressed, crushed in judgment, because he was determined to walk after man's command. He did things man's way. He didn't do them Yahweh's way. Therefore, I am like a moth to Ephraim and like rottenness to the house of Judah. He's going to eat them up. Then Ephraim saw his sickness and Judah his sore. So Ephraim went to Assyria and sent to King Yerub, but he is also unable to heal you or cure you of your sore. Okay. Assyria. Heart of Iraq and Syria today. Southern Turkey. Heart of Islam. Ephraim, the northern kingdom, went to the Assyrians and looked for help in the physical world. They were looking to the Assyrians to help them, even against Judah. It didn't work. Assyria eventually turned around and devoured the northern kingdom. This nation has made its bed with Islam for oil and for their money. Remember that book I've been showing you, The Unholy Alliance, where the Democratic Party married itself to Islam? Well, eventually the Republican Party married itself as well. Yeah. Politics, right? No. This is real world prophecy interpretation. Our government, our nation, since we are the seed of Ephraim, which I'll prove to you in coming weeks, we've married ourselves to the exact same people that the Northern Kingdom did. We sought for our protection, for their wealth to help us, their physical wealth, their oil, and their money. Well, guess what comes with that? Their hooks. And they will devour us just like they did the Northern Kingdom. Same people, the exact same people. This is why I believe that you saw the bees around Obama all the time. He represents Shia Islam. Islam. The beast of Revelation, the final beast, the fourth beast, the last beast, Islam. So the bee, scriptures say, I will whistle for the bee. In other words, the Assyrians. You saw bees hanging around that man all the time, and flies. The fly represents Egypt. Prophecy sticks with its descendants. Not in exact interpretations, rough feelings. We'll say, Joel, that's just, you can make it fit anything. No, you can't. Try to make that prophecy fit Hitler. It won't, because it didn't apply to Germany. Try to make that prophecy fit Russia when the communists took over. It won't, because it didn't apply to Russia. Try to make it fit England when the United States split. It didn't. It doesn't, because it didn't apply to England. Try to make it fit us today. It does. It does. So no, this is not ambiguity that I can read the prophecy into anything I want to. not if I'm reading the prophets carefully and in their original context. It applies specifically to the times when it's where it applies, to the seasons. Verse 14, for I will be like a lion to Ephraim, and like a young lion to the house of Judah. I, even I, will tear to pieces and go away. I will carry away, and there will be no one to deliver. See the parallelism there? That's a chiasm. That's a chiasm and parallelism within the chiasm. I will go away and return to my place until they acknowledge their guilt and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me earnestly. What is this? Well, until the Jews say, Hosanna in the highest, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. No, not Jews. Not Jews. In the New Testament, it says until Israel does that. Well, we know that Jesus is the Messiah. No, you don't. What? What are you talking about, Joe? You don't. If you knew that Yeshua was Messiah, you would obey him. And you would keep Torah as he did. Did he not tell you, follow my example? Yes, he did. Did he not tell you, learn the weightier things of the law? Yes, he did. Did his apostles not teach the same thing? Yes, they did. Read Acts closely. They did not move the Sabbath to Sunday. They kept the Sabbath. Read Paul closely. He's still keeping the Moedim. He says in his defense in his trial before the king, Herod and all, he says, I have not done anything to offend the law of the Jew. In other words, the law of Moses, even though he was following the new covenant. How can you follow the new covenant without offending the law of Moses? Because he's following the spirit of the law and applying it the way it applies under the new covenant. Paul never once told you that the Torah went away. He told you that the law of the rabbis is gone. He told you that the curse of the law is gone. The curse of the law is death. Death has been swallowed up, but it never once said the law has been swallowed up. So if you're not keeping the Messiah's Sabbaths, and you're not keeping his Moedim, and you're not trying to understand the Torah and apply it to the day and time and culture in which you live, you don't know Messiah. Hosea 4:6, my people perish for lack of knowledge. They don't know my Torah. They don't keep it. If you don't know your scriptures, if you don't know your Torah, if you don't know those things, you don't know Messiah and Father. And until the lost tribes say, oh, I got it. Folks, although they're doing it wrong, that's the Hebrew roots movement. Now, the reason the Hebrew roots movement get it wrong is because there are not enough scholars in that movement to guide them. They have zealous shepherds, but like with all human beings, once they find that they've collected themselves a little flock, they turn the attention to themselves and their teachings and their understandings, and then they become good little Pharisees and Sadducees, and they put the people back under legalism. You will never catch us doing that, not knowingly, not intentionally. Here on We Who Are Lost, it is the Father and the Son, Jack, not us. It is not our ministry. We serve him and his kingdom and his people.
And if we ever do that, call us out big time.
Yeah, and don't wait. Do it right then and there. All right, we're going to take our break. We're going to come back. We're going to pick up with chapter 6. We're going to do as much as we can get done today, and we'll probably finish this next Wednesday. Hosea is very important. He sets the stage for what comes next. So we'll see you in 6 minutes. Charlie, time to dance, brother. Okay, we've got to keep going here, folks. Hopefully, if you've missed part of today's show, this is definitely one to catch with the replay. That's one of the great things about this new media format that we're using. You can go back and get it on demand. I hope, excuse me. I know I read the prophets very differently than most people you've probably ever encountered. I'm aware of that. Before you just label me as a heretic and shove me to the side, I hope you'll give me an opportunity to hear me out, see why I read them the way I do. I'm focused spiritual first, Yahweh, kingdom of Yahweh first, physical later, material world second. But I can promise you this. I swear, not that take it however you want. But if you think I can't support this using other scriptures, trust me. My interpretation of this, it's in Isaiah, it's in Jeremiah, it's in Ezekiel, it's in Daniel, it's in Amos, it's in Habakkuk, it's in Zechariah, big time. Once you know how to read Zechariah, it's all over the place. It's in the New Testament, it's in Genesis. I can go everywhere. It's in the Psalms. All of this points in the same direction. And the reason I read the prophets this way is the way my mind works. All of these different prophets give me in Psalms, and the Bible gives me all these little pieces throughout the text. And I put them on the table and I start going, how do they fit? And they just start clicking into place. And as long as I don't find a piece that can't fit, just drop in place. It doesn't need any hammers. The picture that comes together has to be the right one. There's no contradictions. That's why I am where I'm at with the scriptures. So let's get this thing back on here. Chapter 6. Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. Come, let us return to Yahweh, for he has torn us, but he will heal us. He has struck us, but he will bandage us. He will make us live after 2 days, and he will rise us up after the third. That way we may live before him. Oh, boy. Does that not, first of all, echo 2 days, 3 days, full 3 days in the ground and rising on the third day? Well, if a year is 1,000, if this is, depending on the Hebrew behind this, I just thought of this morning when I was getting ready for the class. This needs a little bit of study. But even if it's not a word-to-word thing, the pattern is here. He will raise us up after 2 days. How many thousands of years has it been since the resurrection? Almost 2,000 years. And then he will make us live on the third day. Make us alive after 2 days and raise us up on the third day. Well, yeah, Joe, that's the millennial reign. No, that's not the pattern you're looking for. Raise you up in the third day. That could just be into eternity. But the pattern is there. The pattern of the sign of Jonah is right there. That's what we're looking for, that fuzzy pattern. Verse 3, so let us pursue to know Yahweh. His going forth is established at dawn, and he will come to us like the rain, like the late rain watering the earth. That's also a blessing. What shall I do with you, O Ephraim? What shall I do with you, O Judah? For your loving kindness is like a morning cloud, and like the dew which goes away early. Okay, this means that this is a cultural way here of saying that it's fickle. It doesn't last long. Their faithfulness to Yahweh doesn't last long. If you've ever been in the desert, the clouds in the morning go away real quick. They get burned off by the sun. Therefore, I have hewn them into pieces by the prophets. I have killed them by the sword of my mouth, and the judgment on you are like the light that goes forth. Okay, I want you to read that real quick. Yahweh saying he has killed them by the sword of his mouth. So when you read in the book of Revelations that he's going to come back and kill everybody by the word of his mouth, and we think that it's going to be physical death, did he physically kill the northern kingdom with the word of his mouth? Yes, a lot of them he did. Yes, he did. But he didn't kill all of them with the word of his mouth. Except, yes, he did. So, Joe, that didn't make sense. Oh, it makes perfect sense if you're looking at this spiritually first. Remember what I told you. Jacob cursed Rachel. The northern kingdom has to die because of his curse to Rachel with her father's idols. So by the word of his mouth, Yahweh gives the northern kingdom a divorce. I divorce you. They're all spiritually dead. Every single one of them is spiritually dead now. They've been kicked out of the kingdom. And a lot of them physically died at the same time. So this is a twofer here. I have killed them by the words of my mouth. Now, the sword of my mouth. Be careful how you read that phrase. If you're looking for only literal fulfillment, killing people in the physical sense, you might miss the spiritual. And the spiritual, to me anyway, is more important than the physical, because I'm seeking first the kingdom. And I was told by the Messiah, kingdom is not of this realm. It says, I have killed them by the words of my mouth, and the judgments on you are like the light that goes forth. For I delight in the loving kindness rather than sacrifice, and in the knowledge of Yahweh, knowledge of Elohim, rather than burnt offerings. In other words, right here, this is telling us he delights in you knowing his Torah and living it. Joe, that's not what it says. Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. In the loving kindness. Charlie's tried to teach us that word. Heseth, right, Charlie? Isn't that what we got right here? The Heseth?
Yes, chesed. Okay, having
Hesed.
trouble with my mouth. But yes.
That's more important than sacrifices.
Oh,
but
man,
knowledge of Elohim.
Important.
Right. That's agape love for Yahweh and
Yes,
for your neighbor. Your neighbor. Your neighbor is not a non-believer. Your neighbor is members of the kingdom. Knowledge of Yahweh rather than burnt offerings. What would knowledge of Yahweh be other than knowledge of his Torah, his written word?
Right.
But that's also obedience.
And it's more than obedience. It's that intimate relationship that he wants with us. He wants us to know him in the biblical sense, that husband-wife type relationship where, you that bind.
And there's that Ishibel language.
Yes. That's what he's looking for. That type of commitment, which we don't see today. You see that's part of all this prophecy that it's talking about here, because the destruction of the family and marriage and things like that are those things like, it's talking about the dew and all those things and stuff. That's what this is talking about.
Folks, we are literally witnessing the shaking of all the pillars of the earth. In other words, the natural laws that bind his creation and keep it working. They're not destroyed. The scripture never says they're destroyed. It says they're shaken.
Right.
We are trying to recreate Yahweh's creation. It doesn't work. That's apostasy. And this is what he's talking about here, folks.
And with everything going on in the world right now, we ain't got much time left, Joe.
No, we don't.
Get the book done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Verse 7.
Shameless plug.
Verse 7. But like Adam, they have trespassed against the covenant, and they have dealt treacherously against me. Trespass against the covenant. That shows you that there's property in that covenant. That covenant becomes part of the birthright, part of your inheritance.
Yeah, and covenant, that's talking about that covenant relationship we were just talking about.
Yep. Gilead is a city of workers of iniquity with a track of blood, iniquity, sin. And as raids wait for a man, as raiders wait for a man, so a band of priests murder on the way to Shechem. Surely they have committed lewdness. In the house of Israel, I have seen an appalling thing. Ephraim's harlotry is there. Israel has defiled herself. Also, Judah, there is a harvest set for you when I restore the fortunes of my people. This right here is a warning to Judah. When he restores the fortunes of all his people, the new covenant, there's a harvest for you. It ain't a good thing. If our brothers and sisters in the house of Judah refuse the new covenant offer of the Messiah, then they are bound to keep the ways of Moses perfectly. And they're trying to earn their way to heaven. They can't do that. They can't do that. And remember, the way covenants work, the old covenant is no longer in force. That's why the temple was destroyed. It was meant to push them toward the new covenant. So a lot of our brothers and sisters in Judah are in real trouble. Okay? I'm not going to tell you they're lost. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're in trouble. We got to go to chapter 7 now. Verse 1. It says, when I would heal Israel, then the iniquity of Ephraim is uncovered, and the evil deeds of Samaria, that tells you you're dealing with northern kingdom, for they work falsehood. The thief enters in, raiders ransack outside, and they do not say to their hearts that I remember all their evil. Now their deeds are all around them. They are before my face. In other words, the northern kingdom thinks that Yahweh isn't paying attention. With their evil, they make the king glad, and the princes with their deceptions. Did you have something, Charlie? Okay, I thought I saw him pop in there. The internet's doing weird things, folks. They are all adulterers, apostates, like an oven heated by the baker who ceases to stir up the fire from the kneading of the dough until it is leavened. On the day of our king, the princes became sick with the heat of wine. He stretched out his hands with scoffers, for their hearts are like an oven, and they draw near in the plotting. Their anger smolders all night. In the morning it burns like flaming fire. All of them are hot like an oven, and they devour their judges. All their kings have fallen. None of them calls on me. Now, what's this oven and heat? Oven and heat. In other words, it burns it up. They're self-destructive because they are rebellious. They do not turn to Yahweh, and they're doing things their own way. So this is just total. This is a rebellious, lawless, undisciplined rebellion child, and they have to be punished. Now, here's where we want to start paying attention again. Ephraim mixes himself with the peoples, with the Gentile nations. Ephraim has become a cake unturned. Oh, boy. Ephraim mixes himself with the peoples. He is scattered throughout the Gentile nations. Ephraim has become a cake not turned. This is probably written after Ephraim is dispersed. Cake not turned. What this is basically in the short of this is the story of Ephraim's not over. Cake unturned. In their time, a lot of the breads that they would eat, they had a stone oven. They wouldn't put things inside the oven. They'd set the bread cakes that looked like pitas. They'd set it on top of the oven, and it would cook, and then they would flip it and cook the other side. If it's a cake unturned, that means it's only half done. The story of Ephraim is only half finished. This is after the dispersal. Well, if the lost tribes are dead and gone and they're whatever, and I've replaced them with the church, wrong. We just read that Israel, the house of Israel, is going to be given many vineyards, different nations, where they will set up camp and restore their strength as in their youth. In other words, they will all become part of the new covenant in these different countries. That gets us to where we're going to be going, maybe not next show, but the one after it. This is all very important. Strangers devour his power, yet he does not know it. Gray hairs are also sprinkled on him, yet he does not know it. Strangers devour his power. In other words, Gentiles, people outside of the covenant, are going to weaken him, and he doesn't know what's going on. Gray hairs, that tells you there's going to be great age. This could take a long time before it's fulfilled. So the pride of Israel answers against him, yet they have not returned to Yahweh their God, their Elohim, nor have they sought him for all of this. So Ephraim has become like a silly dove without a heart of wisdom. They call on Egypt, they go to Assyria. All right, Egypt and Assyria, that means they're physical allies. They're looking, instead of Yahweh, let me explain how this works in our modern time. Maybe that'll help. You know how our government's always, well, that's the way they do it in Europe. Well, Europe has turned apostate ever since World War II. Europe's been falling away from the faith ever since World War II. That's in prophecy, by the way. So our people are saying, well, that's how Europe does it, and that's not how the Chinese do it, and that's not how the Russians do it, and we should all do it like they do. Same thing. Because Ephraim, the northern kingdom, house of Israel, called on these other nations rather than Yahweh, by default, they were calling on those other nations gods as well. Apostasy, harlotry. We do the same thing today, folks. Nothing's changed. It says, when they go, I will spread my net over them. I will bring them down like the birds of the sky. I will chastise them in accordance with the report to their congregation. In other words, Yahweh's going to make sure that their efforts do not work. Woe to them, for they have fled from me. Destruction is theirs, for they have transgressed against me. And I would redeem them, but they speak lies against me. In other words, he would heal them, but they won't seek his face. They won't repent. And they do not cry out to me in their heart when they wail on their beds. For the sake of grain and new wine, they gather together as sojourners. They depart from me. Although I disciplined and strengthened their arms, yet they devise evil against me. They turn, but not upward. They are like a deceitful bow. Their princes will fall by the sword because of the indignation of their tongue. They will be their scoffing in the land of Egypt. This will be their scoffing in the land of Egypt. Egypt also is representative of, this is the physical land in this prophecy, but also represents physical bondage. Chapter 8, verse 1, put the trumpet to your mouth. Like an eagle, the enemy comes against the house of Yahweh, because they have trespassed against my covenant and transgressed against my law, my covenant and my Torah, my law, not law of Moses. He's not saying law of Moses. The law of Moses is not just that. Yahweh's law is more than just the law of Moses. This is, they cry out to me, my God, we of Israel know you. Israel has rejected the good. The enemy will pursue him. In other words, you do not know me. And because you have rejected me, my word, my Torah, the enemy pursues you. They have set up kings, but not by me. In other words, they set up their own kings. This is the northern kingdom. They set up their kings from aside from the line of David. So in other words, it's not Yahweh's doing. They have appointed princes, but I do not know it. With the silver and gold, they have made idols for themselves, that they might be cut off. Apostasy. He has rejected your calf, O Samaria, saying, my anger burns against them. There are 2 calves in Samaria, remember? 2 golden calves. How long will they be incapable of innocence? For from Israel is even this, a craftsman made it, so it is not God. Surely the calf of Samaria will be smashed to splinters, for they sow the wind and they reap the whirlwind. The standing grain has no growth. It makes no flour. Should it make anything, strangers would swallow it up. In other words, famine. And if they did produce, others would eat it. Israel is swallowed up. They are now among the nations like a vessel which has no delight. And Israel is swallowed up. This is what we think of as lost. But they knew where they were at the time. In other words, Assyria has come and taken them and filled the land with foreigners, other people. Verse 9, for they have gone up to Assyria like a wild donkey all alone. Ephraim has hired lovers. All right, right here, we got to look at this one. They've gone up to Assyria. In other words, they went to Assyria for political and military help. It didn't happen. They got lost. Assyria conquered them instead. Ephraim hired lovers, other nations to help them in the physical world. But those other nations are led by other gods. So this is also apostasy. So when America seeks other nations in an alliance to help us in the physical world, that's apostasy. This is also, though, why the rest of the world seeks us, but seldom seeks each other. Because the rest of the world does know who the one true living God is. So when they get in real trouble, they run back to him. This is all reflected in our world if we will change our way of thinking. And this is why the unseen realm is so important to us. We've got to start thinking spiritually. Verse 10, even though they hire allies amongst the nations, now I will gather them up. And this is how you know Ephraim has hired lovers. Then the next verse explains it right there. Even though they hired allies among the nations, now I will gather them up. And they will begin to diminish because of the burden of the kings of princes. In other words, they won't succeed because of the price they have to pay for hiring their allies. Since Ephraim has multiplied altars for sin, they have become altars of sinning for him. Folks, be very careful with this. Say, well, Joe, we haven't done that today. Yeah, you do. Sunday worship is a pagan day. It's not Yahweh's day. Yeah. I know what I'm saying. And I mean it. I won't condemn you if you're still there. I'm not legalistic in that sense, but I will tell you, if you want to keep going to Sunday, fine, but you better start keeping Saturday. That's the Sabbath. You better start having a real, I know that it might take time to get there, but as long as Yahweh knows you're heading in that direction, he'll know your heart. But if you're making excuses for it, then you're going to fall under the condemnation of Israel. Israel says, hey, look, we're doing all these things. We call on Yahweh, and Yahweh's turning around saying through his prophet, I want nothing to do with you. You're not doing it my way. Syncretism won't save us. This once saved, always saved, you're not going to find that in the scriptures. There's a lot of things that we have, keeping Christmas and Easter instead of the Moedim. Folks, we've set up altars to ourselves. There are a lot of things that we do. Catholic, Protestant, Hebrew roots movement. We have got to take serious. Yahweh takes this serious. He divorced his bride over this. We've got to be serious about this. And yeah, if it means that everybody falls away, but 3 or 4, good. Because when the Messiah was here on earth, and he said, unless you eat of my flesh and drink of my blood, you can't have any part of me or the kingdom. And the people went away by the thousands. This teaching's too hard. He wasn't teaching cannibalism. He was telling you, unless you actually do this and live it, take it into your heart, change the way you think, change the things you focus on, change the order of importance in your life, and start living it, then you have no part of me. And the people were like, well, hey, man, we were all about the free blessings and everlasting life, but you mean we got to take on all this stuff? The world's going to hate us for that. There's going to be persecution for that. Nah, too tough a teaching. We're leaving. And Yahweh tells them, well, then be gone with you. I never knew you. Verse 12, though I wrote for him 10,000 precepts of my law, my Torah, they are counted as strange thing. As for my sacrificial gifts, they sacrifice the flesh and eat it, but Yahweh has not accepted them. Now he will remember their iniquity and punish them for their sins. They will return to Egypt, physical bondage. So Israel has forgotten his maker and built palaces, and Judah has multiplied fortified cities. But I will send a fire on its cities that it may consume its palatial dwellings. Fortified cities, we're going to rely on our own strength. Yahweh saying, I'm going to send something against them that will consume them. Chapter 9. Do not be glad, O Israel, with rejoicing like the peoples, for you have played the harlot, forsaking your Elohim, your God. You have loved harlots' earnings on every threshing floor. Threshing floor and winepress will not feed them, and the new wine will deceive them. They will not remain in the land of Yahweh, but Ephraim will return to Egypt, back to physical bondage, and Assyria they will eat in Assyria they will eat unclean food. Assyria is also going to be likened to physical bondage here at this point. This is going to be parallelism. The spiritual thought is you're going to be taken captive. So they were not taken to Egypt. They were actually taken to Assyria. That's how you know you're dealing with physical bondage. Ephraim will return to Egypt. Oh, yeah, physical bondage. And in Assyria, oh, that's where they're going to be physically bound. They will eat unclean food. In other words, you're not going to be able to worship properly. They will not pour out drink offerings or wine to Yahweh. Their sacrifices will not please him. Their bread will be like mourner's bread. In other words, stale and dry, flavorless. It's going to be unleavened bread. All who eat of it will be defiled. If you eat unclean, you are defiled. That doesn't mean lost. It means you need to be restored. For their bread will be for themselves alone. It will not enter the house of Yahweh. What will you do on the day of your appointed festival and on the day of your feast of Yahweh? What are you going to do there? You're in a foreign land. You're captive. For behold, they will go because of destruction. Egypt will gather them up. Memphis will bury them. Weeds will possess their desirable items of silver. Thorns will be in their tents. Yeah, you thought your own strength was going to save you, but it didn't. The days of punishment have come. The days of recompense have come. Let Israel know this. Okay, folks, if I am correct, and we are the seed of Ephraim, we are New Israel, just like Benjamin Franklin and other founding fathers said. President Washington made 2-hour prayer after his inauguration, where he dedicated this nation to Yahweh in a covenant, in the exact same church that was wrapped up in 9/11. Back to the harbinger again. All of these things are fireflies to me. You cannot break a covenant. You can break it, but you can't annul it. It doesn't go away. If you are in violation of the covenant, the curses are coming, the blessings don't. If you cannot restore yourself back to that covenant in time, eventually the punishment comes, the wrath. I think we're there. It says, the prophet is an ignorant fool. The inspired man has madness because of the abundance of your iniquity and because your hostility has abounded. Okay, what does this mean? You remember in the New Testament, where it says that eventually you'll be handed over to your own depravity and you'll have no wisdom? What Yahweh's prophet here, Hosea, is telling the northern kingdom, you've got to that point where you're now depraved. Even your prophets have no wisdom. Ephraim was a watchman with my Elohim, a prophet, yet the snare of a bird catcher is in all his ways. He was a watchman. He was supposed to warn the world. Now he's caught up in it. And there is only hostility in the house of Yahweh. That's not just the temple, folks. That's Yahweh's people. They have dug deep in corruption, as in the days of Gibeah. He will remember their iniquity, and he will punish their sins. This is grapes in the wilderness. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. Okay, that's going to be the original people coming out of Egypt. I saw your fathers as the earliest fruit on the fig tree in its first season. Does anybody think all of a sudden of the fig tree that Yeshua curses? There's a reason for that. They're connected. That's that fuzzy thinking. It's not apples to apples. It's not meant to be apples to apples. The fig tree is Israel in this case, but he found them like first fruit of the fig tree. The people in Egypt clean up on Isle Twitch. But they came to Baal Peor and devoted themselves to shame, and they became a detestable as that which they loved. And this happened at the exact same time that Yahweh is still with them. As for Ephraim, their glory will fly away like a bird. No birth, no pregnancy, no conception. Be careful with this one. Okay. Let me change that to red. Well, it won't change. Why am I saying be careful with that? There are multiple interpretations of this, and this is a case where the physical shadow is probably going to be multifaceted. Yes, they may not actually give children. Yahweh's not going to let you have children if all you're going to do is sacrifice them to Moloch. So you may start to wane. This is also going to be a case, and as we read Hosea further, you're going to see it's also going to be a case of where you might have children, but you sacrifice them, or you might have children and they are sacrificed by Yahweh, given up into battle for others where there is no gain for it. In other words, there is always going to be something eating away at Ephraim's children. They're not going to be as fruitful as they should be until they're restored. It's as though they bring up their children, yet I will bereave them until not a man is left. Surely woe to them indeed when I depart for them. Ephraim, as I have seen, is planted in a pasture like Tyre. Does this not bring up the idea of, that should bring the firefly of Tyre and the king of Tyre in Isaiah, which is on the shores up in Philistia? This is going to connect you to the idea of Satan. It says, but Ephraim will bring out his children for killing. Bring out his children for killing? See, I told you that there's multiple ways, because that's going to be concurrent with this one up here. No birth, no pregnancy, no conception. Those are parallel. They're linked in thought. Give them, O Yahweh, what will you give? Give them a miscarrying womb and a dry breast. This is going to be a case of your children won't come to fruition. They won't be born. There are multiple ways that we should be looking at this. Spiritually. Spiritual first. Spiritually, the children of Ephraim are going to be lost. They're going to be given up in sacrifice. Ephraim won't necessarily be as numerous as they otherwise should have been. They'll still be numerous as the sands of the sea, but not what they should be. And it says, all their evil is at Gilgal. Indeed, I came to hate them there. Because of the evil of their deeds, I will drive them out of my house. I will love them no more. All their princes are rebels. Ephraim is stricken. Their root is dried up. They will bear no fruit. Just a second, Charlie. Even though they bear children, I will put them to death, the desirable ones of their womb. And then right here, my God will despise them because they have not listened to him, and they will be those who flee amongst the nations, and they will be those who flee into the Gentile lands. Real quick, Charlie, even though they bear children, I'll take them. My people are lost because of lack of knowledge of my Torah. They don't know me, and therefore I will have no compassion on their children. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And just, I mean, statistically, our birth rate is way, way down now. And we're
below the rate of replacement.
And there's a lot of problems with, our children now. And, you got abortion here that, that could be part of this. I will put to death the desirable ones of the womb, and all these things come together. I mean, there's so many fireflies that are just, you see what's going on. And if this is like reading a newspaper. Yeah, this is reading a newspaper. I mean, it's everything's happening right now.
So yeah, you're having as much trouble with this one as I am then. I hope the rest of you are seeing why I read it this way. Excuse me.
Well, it's interesting that it's Friday the 13th. Israel is launching attacks against Iran, and we're covering Hosea. That's not a coincidence, I'm sure.
That's Holy Spirit timing. All right, chapter 10, verse 1. Israel is a luxuriant vine. Okay, vine. Excuse me just a second here, folks. I got to get something to drink. Sorry about that. Okay. A luxuriant vine. A vine is an image of the nation of Israel. Well, it's a nation. It's the house of Israel. Okay. That's one nation. It's a luxuriant vine. That vine imagery carries on, but it's also going to be a luxuriant people. You know, it doesn't, if you're doing a word study, you will miss this. This is a concept study. Vine in the prophetic language, people, nation, or physical land where you live. You know, vineyard would be the land, but you're a vine. You're the people that grow in that nation. Okay. That's going to also connect you to the idea of Goyim, which is also connected to the idea of nation. So this is there's a lot more in that one line right there. Israel is a luxuriant vine. There's a lot more there than what we read. He produces fruit for himself. In other words, he thinks he's self-sufficient. Let me ask you, what other people in the world think of themselves as rugged independence, rugged individualism? Can you think of one? Rush Limbaugh used to boast America's, our inheritance is rugged individualism. We take care of ourselves. We're independent. That's the prophetic nature of Ephraim right there. He produces fruit for himself. The more abundant his fruit, the more the altars he abounds, the better his land, the better he made the sacred pillars. So the more we prosper thinking it's us and only us, the more we worship ourselves.
MAGA, MAGA, MAGA.
MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. If that angers you politically, you're not seeing clearly enough spiritually. All right? The heart is faithless. Now they must bear their guilt. Yahweh will break down their altars and destroy their sacred pillars. Surely now they will say, we have no king, for we do not fear Yahweh. How many people today say, well, this nation was never founded on the principles of the Bible. We're not a theocracy, even though Samuel Adams said we were an experiment in Protestant theocracy. His words, not mine. Who was he? Just a signer of the Declaration of Independence and father of the Revolution, who knew all the other people who said we were New Israel. So, yeah. Okay. Hosea, the Hosea is telling the land of Israel back in the ancient times, this is what you've done. You think that you're your own God now? Our own God. Oh, geez. Where has this show ever mentioned somebody who thinks they're their own God? Folks, this is us. This is the United States. As for the king, what can he do for us? Yeah, Yahweh. What can Yahweh do for us? He's not even real anymore, right? They speak mere words. With worthless oaths, they cut covenants, and judgment flourishes like gall in the furrows of the field. In other words, you write contracts, but you don't keep them. Look to our country today. Since when can a contract be counted on anymore? Depending on the judge or the jury, they'll just annul your contract. Well, that's, if you're going to annul a contract, how much easier to annul a covenant since that's not even signed. The dweller of Samaria will fear for the calf of Beth Aven. Indeed, its people will mourn for it, and its idolatrous priests will cry out over its glory, since it has gone into exile from them. Folks, this is the calf in Beth. I think this is Bethel, or no, not Bethel. This is up at the one near the foot of, if I'm not mistaken, the foot of Mount Hermon. This is the up by the city of Dan. It's literally one of the golden calves that was set up in Samaria, but it's also figurative. Where do we have a bronze calf in the United States right now? Oh, that's right, Wall Street. The root of material wealth, which is at the heart of what this attack on the Northern Kingdom is. You've gotten so rich, you think it's on your own. You say, what good do we don't need Yahweh. What can he do for us? So, well, you're going to cry over your golden calf. You're going to mourn your financial wealth because I'm going to bring it to ruin. Verse 6, the thing itself will be carried to Assyria. In other words, the calf, physically, literally, in the physical, will be taken to Assyria as tribute to King Yerub. Ephraim will receive shame, and Israel will be ashamed of its own counsel. Samaria will be ruined with her king, like a stick on the surface of the water. Also, the high places of Avon, the sin of Israel, will be eradicated. Thorn and thistle will grow on their altars. I've shown you a picture of that northern altar, and it is covered by thorns and thistles as of right now to this day. So that's not what it means spiritually. Spiritually, it means it'll come to naught. It'll be ruined. But physically, it is now covered in thorns and thistles. Then they will say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. From the days of Gibeah, you have sinned, O Israel. There they stand. Will not the battle against the sons of his injustice overtake them in Gibeah? When it is my desire, I will chastise them, and the peoples will be gathered against them when they are bound for their double guilt. When they are bound for their double guilt, the peoples will be gathered against them. That's the Gentiles. The nations will be gathered against them. That's happened more than once, folks. Now, here's another important passage in Hosea. This is verse 11. Ephraim is a trained heifer that loves to thrash. He loves to work. Heifer, symbol of Ephraim, is the bull, and he's trained. He loves to work. This nation is one of the most industrious, one of the most prosperous nations that has ever been. We love to work. How often does Europe say, you guys don't take enough vacation? We love to work. It's an American trait not to miss work, or at least it used to be. It says, but I will come over her fair neck with a yoke. I will harness Ephraim. Now, watch the language here. I'm going to harness Ephraim. That's the northern kingdom. Judah will plow. So Ephraim will thresh. Judah will plow. Jacob will harrow for himself. That's both. Ephraim is the house of Israel. Judah is the house of Judah. Together they are Jacob. In other words, Yahweh is going to use them to do his work. Sow with a view to righteousness. Reap in accordance with loving kindness. Break up your fallow ground. Indeed, it is time to seek Yahweh until he comes and rains righteousness on you. In other words, that right there is 1 Corinthians. Repent. Seek the face of Yahweh, his Torah, his ways, his Shem, his loving kindness, and then he will restore you. But if you don't do those things, it says, you have plowed wickedness, you have reaped injustice, you have eaten the fruit of deception, because you have trusted in your way, in your abundant warriors. Therefore, a rumbling will arise among your people, and all your fortifications will be destroyed. As Shalman destroyed Beth Arabel on the day of battle, when mothers were dashed in pieces with their children, thus it will be done to you at Bethel because of your evils of evils. At dawn, the king of Israel will be completely ruined. And he's talking about the king of the house of Israel, with the northern kingdom. Hosea 11, the beloved son. When Israel was a youth, I loved him. This is going to be back like when he was in Egypt, when he was young. And out of Egypt, I called my son, firstborn. Now we're back in inheritance language, okay? The more they called, and this is going to be the northern kingdom who holds the inheritance. The more they called them, the more they went from them. They kept sacrificing to Baals and burning incense to engraven images. This is going to hearken me to Jeremiah. It says, if you're going to worship those gods from, over in the Nile and everything back in Egypt, okay, fine. But as for me and my house, we're going to worship Yahweh. Well, this is what this is hearkening you back to, is the days when Ephraim, the house of Israel, in this case, the whole house of Israel at the time, because there wasn't a split, they were still trying to keep to the gods that they had learned when they lived in Egypt. It says, yet is I who taught Ephraim to walk. I took them in my arms. I gave them my Torah. I made them into a nation. I told them how they should live. But they did not know that I healed them. In other words, they ignored me. They did not give me credit for it. I led them with cords of a man, with bonds of love. And I became to them as one who lifts the yoke from their jaws. And I bent down and I fed them. So all this loving kindness, all this freedom from captivity. They will not return to the land of Egypt, but Assyria, he will be their king. So they're going back to bondage, but not in the land of Egypt, the land of Assyria, because they refuse to return to me. They refuse to repent and seek him. And the sword will whirl against their cities and will consume their gate bars and devour them because of their counsels. So my people are hung up on turning from me. Though they call them to the one on high, none at all exalts him. So though they call to me, none of them exalt me. What was I just telling you a little while ago? You can call yourself by his name, but if you're not learning to do as his son gave us the example, then he's not going to answer us. And this is why Matthew 7:20 through 23. You can do all the things you want to do in his name. And some of it will get granted because of his Shem, not because of you. And in the end, he'll say, I never knew you. You were lawless. You didn't know me at all. Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's what's so important about this is, many people think, well, I prayed in Jesus's name or Yeshua's name because I said my prayer. And at the end of my prayer, I said, in the name of Yeshua or in the name of Jesus. That's not what it means. It means to pray in his Shem, in his character, his essence. So if you're not praying in accordance with the will of Yahweh and Yeshua, then your prayers will likely not be heard and answered. Although he does answer some of those prayers
for his own glory.
For his own glory, but also for our correction, because he will give you what you want sometimes, even though he knows it's not in your best interest. So hopefully you'll learn a lesson from it. So
let me add on to this, Charlie. Don't go. This is important, rabbit. When Yeshua said, pray in my name, what was Yeshua's Shem? He gave us the example. He told us. What is it? Humble submission to the Father's will. Mm-hmm. That was Yeshua's Shem. That's how Yeshua prayed. Yeah. He said, I don't do my will. I do the Father's.
Yep.
That's his Shem. So if you want to pray in the name of the Messiah and you're not praying in humble submission to the Father's will, you're not dwelling in, right. You're not part of the Messiah.
Father, I don't want to do this, but if it's your will, I'll do it. That's basically what his prayer was.
Thanks, Charlie. Another important one here, folks. Now, this is after the northern kingdom has been dispersed. How can I give you up, O Ephraim? How can I surrender you, Israel? Cake unturned. I've divorced you, but I'm not done with you. How can I give you over to be like Admah? How can I make you like Zeboim? In other words, destroyed. My heart is turning over within me. All my compassions are stirred. I will not execute my burning anger. I will not make Ephraim a ruin again. Well, he hasn't restored them since the exile. It says, for I am Elohim and not man, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come in wrath. In other words, he doesn't work like men do, which means he doesn't work like other Elohim, other gods do either, because they are fickle. It says, they will walk after Yahweh. He will roar like a lion. Indeed, he will roar. They will walk after Yahweh. They will seek him and his ways. That's the Hebrew roots movement, or the Hebrew roots movement is the fruit of this prophetic utterance. And it says, he will roar and his sons will come trembling from the west. If you are in Jerusalem, this nation is almost due west. This nation's capital is almost due west of you. They will come trembling like birds from Egypt. That's going to be from captivity, physical captivity. And like doves from the land of Assyria. That does not necessarily mean physically from Egypt and Assyria. It could have happened in Hosea's day or shortly thereafter. That could have been a near prophecy fulfillment that some of the lost tribes, the northern tribes, did come from that area back, after Cyrus let them restore Judea. But this whole thing has been about Samaria. So very unlikely. This is more likely the prophets using Egypt and Assyria as physical bondage. In other words, in the lands of the Gentiles, the other nations. And I will settle them in their houses, declares Yahweh. In their houses. That's going to be back in the Holy Land. Second Exodus language again. Ephraim surrounds me with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. And Judah is also unruly against Elohim, even against the Holy One who is faithful. So all of this is intertwined language. And if I were to go through this, I bet you what we're dealing with is chiasms and maybe even some biphytic language here within the book of Hosea, which makes it seem repetitive. It's just meant to, if you just think in that fuzzy thinking, it'll help you with the repetition. Okay, right here. Ephraim feeds on the wind and pursues the east wind continually. I had to look that one up. The east wind, destruction. It's an idiom for destruction. So he feeds on the east wind, which is destruction. He's self-destructive. He abounds in falsehood and destruction. Moreover, he cuts a covenant with Assyria, and oil is carried to Egypt. In other words, he relies on those people for his financial trade and wealth to feed him. He doesn't rely on Yahweh. And Yahweh has contention with Judah, and he will punish Jacob according to his ways, and he will cause everything to return to him according to his deeds. In the womb he took his brother by the heel, meaning Jacob, and in his maturity he wrestled with Elohim. That means Jacob wrestling with the angel. Indeed, he wrestled with the angel and prevailed. He wept and sought his favor, and he found him at Bethel. And there he spoke with us, Bethel, house of Yahweh, house of Elohim, house of God. Even Yahweh, the Elohim of hosts, Yahweh is his name of remembrance. Oh, this is why we use Yahweh, folks. This is why I don't like to use God or Lord or whatever. Therefore, return to your Elohims so that we know which Elohim we're talking about. Keep loving kindness and justice. That means you have to keep Torah. And hope in your Elohim continually. A merchant in whose hands are deceptive balances he loves to oppress. Yahweh does not like people who cheat in business. And Ephraim said, surely I have become rich. I have found wealth for myself. In all my labors they will find in me no iniquity, which would be sin. OMG. I'm a billionaire. I'm rich. I'm taking care of myself. I'm a self-made man. I've never done anything I need to apologize or repent for. Where have we heard that, MAGA? Now, I'm not condemning Trump and what he's doing. Don't get me wrong. Set your political feelings aside for a second. If you're here, you're supposed to be here because you seek after Yahweh and you want to be a child of Yahweh first, not MAGA. You seek first the kingdom, or don't study with us. And I mean that. Hasta luego. But if you're here because you're seeking the Father and the Son spiritually, that's not just President Trump. That's the United States of America. Well, we did this by ourselves. There's nothing to apologize for. You won't find any sin in me. I'm saved. Once saved, always saved. My law's done away. There's no law. There's no sin. That's the modern day church, folks. So this is, but I have been Yahweh, your Elohim, since the land of Egypt. I will make you settle in tents again, as in the days of the appointed festival. This is going to be talking about when he restores them and brings them back to the land. Second Exodus language. And I have spoken to the prophets, and I made visions abound, and by the hand of the prophets I gave parables. Is there wickedness in Gilead? Surely they are worthless. In Gilead they sacrifice bulls, yet their altars are like stone heaps beside the furrows of the field. In other words, you can worship me all you want. If you do it your way and not mine, it means nothing to me. You be careful of that syncretism in your church, brothers and sisters. Now Jacob fled to the field of Aram, and Israel worked for a wife, and for a wife he kept sheep. Now this tells you you're talking about Jacob, right? Where he's working Laban to keep his wife for Rachel. But by a prophet, Yahweh brought Israel up from Egypt, and by a prophet he was kept. That's going to be Moses. Ephraim has provoked to bitter anger, so his Lord, this is his master here, will leave his blood guilt on him, and because he is reproached, to return to him. Ephraim has provoked me to anger, so I will lead your blood guilt on you for breaking my covenant, and because you have not repented, I'll leave that on you. So Ephraim's going to be punished. And Hosea 14, we're going to go just a little long today because I think we can... This is 13. I thought it said 14. All right, let's go 13. We'll see. We may and may not finish up today. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He lifted himself up in Israel. This is because Ephraim was was the strongest militarily. But through Baal, he became guilty and died. Baal worship. Died spiritually died. And now they sin more and more, and make for themselves molten images, idols made from silver according to their understanding, all of them the work of craftsmen. They are saying of them, let the men who sacrifice kiss the calves. There will be therefore they will be like the morning cloud and like dew which soon disappears. There's that phrase again. They won't last long. Like chaff which is blown away with from the threshing floor, and like smoke from a chimney. Yet I have been Yahweh your Elohim since the land of Egypt, and you were not to know any God except me, and therefore no Savior beside me. Yes, sir?
Well, we don't worship, molten images or any of that now, do we? Yeah, look at the Stations of the Cross. But anyway, but just
Yet I have been Yahweh your Elohim since the land of Egypt, and you were not to know any Elohim except me. And that is Elohim in Hebrew. No other gods except me. And there is no Savior. But well, I thought there was Jesus. There's no other name, but no other Shem. There's no other Shem. There's no other character. There's no other nature by which the only way you can know the Shem or nature of Yahweh today is to read his word. I myself knew you in the wilderness, in the land of drought. That's in the wilderness. This is in the desert and in Egypt. And this is anything outside of the land of Yahweh's holy land. As they had their pasture, then they became satisfied. Indeed, they were satisfied, and their heart became raised up. Therefore, they forgot me. Heart became raised up. They became proud. Right there. Proud. So I will be like a lion to them. Folks, I will be like a lion to them. Like a leopard, I will lie in wait on the wayside. I will encounter them like a bear robbed of her cubs. I will tear open the chest, enclosing their heart. There I will devour them like a lioness, and as a beast of the field would rip them open. Charlie, lion, leopard, bear, beast. What's in your head right now?
Just a couple prophecies here and there throughout the entire Bible.
Islam?
Well, yes, that's part of it. Yes.
Joe, Charlie, what are y'all talking about? Where'd you get there from? Hidden Beast 2.
Yeah.
This is what tells me Brother Ellis was on to something.
Yeah.
He was not only in the ball field, he's on the inside of the bleachers somewhere. He's definitely in the infield. All right. If that's leaving you going, scratching your head, going, what? We'll get to that later. It is your ruin, O Israel, that you are against me, against your help. Where now is your king, that he may save you in all your cities? In other words, where's your man that's going to help you? And your judges of whom you said, give me a king and prince. I give you a king in my anger and took him away in my wrath. The iniquity of Ephraim is bound up. His sin is stored up. The pains of childbirth come upon him. He is not a wise son, for it is not the time that he should delay on the opening of the womb. Shall I ransom them from the power of Sheol? Shall I redeem them from death? O death, where are your thorns? O Sheol, where is your sting? Compassion will be hidden from my sight. Though he is fruitful among the reeds, an east wind will come, the wind of Yahweh coming up from the wilderness, and his fountain will become dry, and his springs will be dried up. In other words, as he's seeded into the nations, when he starts to build himself up and become prosperous, Yahweh will take it away. This does not mean in a couple of years. This could be hundreds of years. So you build up a kingdom. Europe builds up a bunch of kingdoms, and now they're gone. England built himself up a kingdom, now it's gone. The United States built itself up a kingdom, and now it's going away. I will plunder his treasuries of every desirable article. Samaria will be held guilty, northern kingdom, for she has rebelled against Elohim. They will fall by the sword. Their infants will be dashed to pieces, and their pregnant women will be ripped open. Now we'll go to Hosea 14. We'll finish. Return, O Israel, to Yahweh your Elohim, for you have stumbled in your iniquity. Take words with you and return to Yahweh. Say to him, forgive all iniquity and take what is good, that we may pay in full the fruit of our lips. Assyria will not save us. We will not ride on horses, nor will we say again, O Elohim, to the work of our hands, for in you the orphan finds compassion. In other words, this is going to be when Ephraim, the northern kingdom, the house of Israel, returns to Yahweh. I will heal their turning away from me. I will love them freely, for my anger has turned away from them. I will be like dew to Israel. In other words, refreshing. He will flourish like a lily, and he will take root like the cedars of Lebanon, the great men, strong, strength. His shoots will go forth, and his splendor will be like the olive tree, and his fragrance like the cedars of Lebanon. Those who live in the shadow will raise again, and they will flourish like the vine. His name of remembrance will be like the wine of Lebanon. O Ephraim, what more have I to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after you. I am luxuriant, like a luxuriant cypress. From me comes your fruit. Ephraim, what more do I have to do with idols? This is Yahweh talking about the new covenant when he takes the name of the Baals out of their mouth. Whoever is wise, so let him discern these things. Whoever is discerning, let him know them. For the ways of Yahweh are right, and the righteous will walk in them, but transgressors will stumble in them. How are you going to know the ways of Yahweh unless you read the word? And the new covenant, the New Testament, does not ever tell you that Torah has been done away. Paul says, onene, says the new covenant, the Torah has never been done away with. He reaffirms it. So this is Hosea, right? Okay, real quick, before we get into closing down for today, your homework for next week. I didn't think we'd get through that. This is already up on the Road to Concord. I will be setting up We Who Are Lost's blog page. You're going to find it down here in the links. If you're watching, let me put this up. You go to the Road to Concord, you're going to find the new website down here and the new blog page down in the links soon. And I'll probably put something else up here, take the place of the homework or whatever. But this is for next week, next Wednesday. This is Joseph's Birthright, the Judas Scepter and Joseph's Birthright. That's the book that started all this for me. Here's a PDF for it. So you can get that PDF. Then we're going to be starting to roll into this book, The Lost Tribes of Israel Found, PDF form right there. And then there is a PDF here that will help you link the prophecies in the Bible to actual real world manifestations. And let's see if I can do this real quick. Here's your PDF. It's 185 pages, Judas Scepter and Joseph's Birthright. That's right there. This is going to be the Lost 10 Tribes of Israel Found. You can buy the Kindle version, but if you want a hard copy of this book, whoo boy, that's going to cost you a car payment, Jack. And then here's going to be that PDF I showed you. If you start reading through this, and there's a lot of, I don't know if the links are live in it, but you be careful with this one. There's a lot of truth in here, but this has definitely got some Hebrew roots, oopsies in it, okay? And why do I put it up there then? Because it's a good guide. A guide. That's just what it is. A good guide to help you start. I'm going to use it because I'm not going to throw it away. I'm just going to sort wheat from chaff. Judas Scepter, Joseph's Birthright. This book here, the one I have in my hand, published 1903. Old. I got that at a bookstore because somebody cheap, nobody knew what it was. The Lost 10 Tribes of the House of Israel Found. This was given to me by Brother William. I tried to pay him for it, but he wouldn't take my money. This is one of my most cherished books. And then this is the printout of that PDF that's going to help guide us. It's going to need a little tweaking. Next week, I'll give you some more at the end of the show, but I'll give you some more bibliography of more books you can look at. Please be careful about running away on your own with research into this subject. Please finish what we do first. Then you can go anywhere you want. Let me get the guardrails up for you. If you go hunting this and you don't check these authors to make sure, Charlie, you may want to chime in here. If you go reading some of the books that are by Mormon authors, they got a very different take on
a filter
this.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah, you better know Mormonism very well. You will run into Muslim books on the Lost Tribes. You better know Islam very well, or you'll be convinced by both of them that they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Neither of them do because they don't know their scriptures. Now, what makes me think that I know better? I don't know better, but I pin everything to the scriptures. That's my guide and guardrail. So stick with us long enough for us to help put your guardrails in place before you go running with wherever you want to go with this. Okay. I'll show you the books that have been favoritist to me, and I'll show you the ones that I've got, but I'm like, nope. They're not even a nerd. I won't even go into them. Juice ain't worth this. Matter of fact, the juice that comes out of that squeeze is bitter. Lemons. Okay. it still might be nourishing, but boy, it's just not worth it. There's better work elsewhere. So that's where we're at today. I hope it was edifying to you. And I hope it helps build you up in your understanding. I hope maybe you see why I read the prophets a little differently. It's not that I'm special. I'm not. I've put in a lot of hard work, and I've asked the Spirit for wisdom and understanding. And I've read after a lot of brothers who are now dead and gone, who have done this work, and Yahweh gave them more insight than me. And all I do is take the wisdom given to them and put it together. And then I latch onto that. And unless and until you show me where it's wrong, I hold on to it. I pin it. And I don't let go of it. And it becomes a guide. And over time, I start realizing, hey, those principles help me understand where this goes in this scripture. And those principles help me on. And that's how I know that those principles are good. So next week, we're going to start hunting the lost tribes. We're going to start seeing where they went. And you've already seen a hint in Hosea. Vineyards. Was Abraham promised that his descendants would be one or many nations? Many. One, but also many. And Ephraim is going to be what? The fullness of the Gentiles. But Joseph is going to be many nations. Ephraim is Joseph. Joseph is going to be not the fullness of the Gentiles, which we translate a company of nations. It works, but that's the weaker. That's not the primary translation. Joseph's going to be many nations. That's also in a blessing to Joseph. You're going to see that prophecy was fulfilled outside of the physical land of Israel. That's supported by history, written history, archaeology, genetics, and scripture. And there's 4 pins that I can point. We can't, and 5 if you go with prophecy in the prophetic nature of the peoples. So if you study as a sociologist, there's 5. Oh, wait a minute. I got 5 ways to support this ideology. What does 5 mean to you, Charlie?
Torah.
Not that it means, not that the Torah supports it. It's just that there's that Hebrew loose, fuzzy thinking.
Yep.
So if I've got 5 pillars to support this, that's Yahweh's way, his word, his Shem, his Torah, his teaching, his patterns. So, all right, we're going to get out of here, but I don't know if you're going to join us Monday, but I will be here Monday.
I should be able to. I'll check my calendar, but I think I'm free.
And I might even go buy donuts and save them up until Monday morning so I can be caffeinated and donut-ated, and I'll be wearing the Dr. Evil shirt, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. And keep an eye, people, on the channels, because they're going to start splitting. It's possible that Wednesday we will be streaming to our new locations. Possibly we'll probably do some testing over the weekend and things like that. And if you see a test coming up, if you're available, come in and let us know that it's working and stuff too.
Charlie, did she misspell that, or is she saying something to us?
Well, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Marianne says we're do nuts. We do this, and we're nuts. They do.
And my cinnamon rolls just aren't rising this morning, so I'm gonna have them for like a brunch or maybe even lunch. By the way they're going, I even started them early yesterday. Yeah. So I don't know.
Monday's subject is going to be the LA riots and these judges and the continued. It's a war. We're gonna understand why I stress form and function Monday.
World War III has already begun.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And folks, you might want to readdress the Battle of Gog and
Magog.
And Armageddon.
And Armageddon, yep.
Because that's supposed to be fought on that plain Megiddo, right? No, it says Har Megiddo. Charlie, what does Har mean?
Mountain.
That's not a valley.
No.
You might want to start rethinking what you're looking for. That battle is going to have physical reflections. Don't get me wrong. That's a spiritual battle. And if the pit has been opened, we're at war again, spiritual and physical. So Monday's going to be.
We got a real World War III going on.
Yeah, and then we'll also
in both
pick
planes.
cover whatever's going on with Israel and Iran. And folks, Iran is Shia Islam. And if you do not know the prophecies of Islam, this is one of those cases where I wish I had a paywall, because I would do this on We Who Are Lost, because this is spiritual. But I would do it behind a paywall because it's not for the rank and file. This is for those who want to see the beast eyeball to eyeball, close enough to smell its breath, get the spittle on you. But for me, who knows the prophecies about Islam's end times prophecies, their end times prophecies, what's going on right now? Oh boy, we just read Hosea, who had
Saudi
Zechariah.
Arabia just came out in support of Iran in this conflict.
We are in a spiritual scriptural class. If you have Muslim friends, you keep your eye on them very closely until this thing settles down. Be careful about who you trust. See, that's another thing. I can't teach you everything I know about Islam unless I'm behind a paywall.
Oh yeah. you would be yeah.
Oh,
you would lose your head over that.
I'd be carrying my weapon everywhere I go.
You better be.
And all I'd be telling you is the truth. I would just read it. I just read it, tell you where to find it, and I just read it. That's all I got to do. JMW says set it up. Oh, damn. I'm being pushed to actually put that paywall up. If I do, it'll be on We Who Are Lost, because it'll be spiritual things that I want to. Because I've also had a brother push me to put the paywall up to teach spiritual lessons that I will not teach on this channel or on the We Who Are Lost in the Open. It's not meant for milk or even bread. It's meant for people who know how to chew the bone. Okay, like I'm never going to teach you why we mentioned that the Bible is Yahweh, Torah is Yahweh's wisdom book. I won't go into that in great detail because people will get the wrong idea what that means in context. They'll think I'm a heretic. I'm not. But that we might put that discussion behind a paywall, because for those who are spiritually mature, that discussion will open your eyeballs. It'll also drive you to your knees, begging the Father for forgiveness. But we'll see. As soon as I can figure out how to set it up. But let me get a few things up and moving first. But be careful, folks. You're entering into a time when you may very well have to decide whether or not your faith is as real as you think it is. Before we leave, there was a reporter. This was a decade or so ago. They went over to the Middle East and they got captured. And they said the Bismillah, the conversion to Islam. And they came back here and they said, I'm a Christian. I didn't really mean it. I just said it to live. I don't think Yahweh sees it that way. I don't think Yahweh sees it that way. That was a swear after, if he was Christian, it was a male reporter, if he really was a Christian, knowing the Holy Spirit revealed the Messiah to him, and he turned around and swore his allegiance to Baal, that's Allah. Allah is Bel, B-E-L, which is Baal. I'm not sure that very well might be a sin against the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, I was going to say that could very well be classified under blasphemy against the Holy Spirit. And you don't want to do that one.
Yeah, that's one you don't want to do.
Because remember when we were talking earlier about, covenants and cutting a covenant and swearing these oaths and things like that, Yahweh takes this stuff seriously. That's why the Bible's in legal language. When you swear and such, he takes that serious.
We just read.
You better keep that. If you swear an oath by Yahweh, you better keep it.
We just
read keep it or die.
We just read a whole book where Yahweh tells us he took it so seriously he divorced his precious bride and his firstborn son. Folks, when Yahweh divorced Ephraim in the house of Israel, Yahweh divorced his own inheritance.
Yeah.
Yahweh was without inheritance at that point. So he still had Judah. Judah does not hold the birthright.
Nope. And without Ephraim, we're all without salvation. But luckily, someone died so that they could be remarried. And so
now they are.
We'll be good to go. But
all right. We're out of
anyway,
here, Charlie.
yeah.
We love each and every one of you. We thank you for being here. We have the number we need on Facebook. Next Wednesday, we should be throwing this show to Facebook and to Rumble, the new channel, We Who Are Lost on Rumble. And we have a YouTube channel for, We Who Are Lost. We will put those links and notifications up. We may not be able to put them up on Facebook. Facebook doesn't always let us do that, but we'll try. We will put them up on the Road to Concord, and we'll get all of this blasted out on all our different social media accesses here in the next couple of days. We're going to run a few tests over the weekend, make sure we got everything done and all our T's crossed and I's dotted. And then we'll just go from there. But next week, we start to make this change because I need to separate. And we'll see you, those of you who wish to do so, we'll see you Monday, politics class. Actually, more political philosophy, but I'm in a philosophical mood with this. Political matters, but form and function, that's philosophy. Next Wednesday, we'll pick up with your homework, and we're going to get into tracing the lost tribes. We'll hopefully finish that up on Friday. Remember, none of these classes are meant to be in depth. They're cursories to show you what's going on so that you're aware of it, and they're starter points for your own study afterwards and in the future. So until then, y'all take care, stay safe. The sunset tonight, Shabbat starts, Sabbath. So if you're joining us tomorrow on our congregation's YouTube channel, we're going to be going over this again, Hosea again, but I'm picking certain sections out of Hosea to dive into a little more depth. So that's up to y'all to do what you want to do with that. So until then, we love y'all. Y'all stay safe. Take care. Shabbat shalom.